What's up, guys, and welcome to this Captain Marvel movie review. We're gonna talk about the movie first, not everything around. We're just gonna talk about like the 2 hours and 4 minutes that you're gonna spend sitting in the theater, or maybe if you don't go see it in theater, on your couch watching this movie, and what it represents itself. Like, not anything around. And then we're gonna talk about like why this movie causes such a controversy in the MCU fan base. So first of all, Captain Marvel was not a bad movie at all. It was a fine movie. I would rate it a pretty good movie, but not an excellent movie. IMDb gives it a 7. I agree with that. It's pretty much down in the middle there, but there's a lot of better Avengers movies, Marvel movies actually. But as a standalone, it's not a bad movie. You're gonna enjoy it because there's some pretty good comic relief. Characters are interesting, not like super interesting. It's not like Iron Man or like Black Panther level, where a lot of people will really dig the characters. Maybe you don't get attached to the Captain Marvel character itself as much as you'll get with some Iron Man, Captain America, other characters like that. She's fine. She's definitely not like a standout and like instant favorite for most MCU fans after seeing the movie. Captain Marvel itself, as I said, is not a bad movie. It's actually somewhat enjoyable. There's some good comic relief, some good moments with different characters. One that I remembered immediately when I came back from the movie and like really thought about. Captain Marvel was trying to escape the Skrulls, and she had her hand stuck in like some tubes, and she couldn't really fight. So, she couldn't use her proton lasers, etc. Like her superpowers actually. So she comes across some Skrulls, and she's like, "Well, do any of you guys know how to take these things up?" And they like. Of course, they don't help, they don't tell her, and she's like, okay, that's fine. So she keeps fighting, and she pretty much knocks all of them out. And what happens is that there's only one Skrull standing in front of her, and like it pretty much roars at her, and she roars back. So that's something you don't expect from the character, but it's kind of funny. Like, everybody in the room in the theater laughed, and that gave a little bit of a tempo for the movie. It's not going to be too serious. It's not going to be too much anything. It gives you like really a good idea of where this is going, and turns out that it's actually right. There's a lot of like funny moments in this movie that you expect from a MCU movie. Especially like there are some like RDJ like moments, like some very sarcastical humor that I really thought were fine, and added some like some fun moments to a movie that could have been pretty heavy, because it's very very psychological in some sense that Carol Danvers doesn't remember her past. She doesn't know who she was. All she knows is that she pretty much woke up with superpowers. She doesn't know like where she's from. She doesn't know who her friends were. But when she goes to the Supreme Intelligence, she sees a person that is supposed to represent a lot for her. But she doesn't even know who she is. Like, for other people, it's gonna be like very inspirational. But for her, this person she's never seen. It's a person she's never seen. So I think there's a lot of like psychological stuff that goes with like flashbacks, memories, etc. that could have been a little better structured. That would have made it easier for like someone like a 15-year-old that's not really into Marvel and the lore and the like the, you would say, EU pretty much, to understand it better. But for me, like, I read a little bit about it first, so even though I'm not the biggest MCU fan, I kind of understood where this was going, so I was able to understand it. But for people that are like very not accustomed to it, it's gonna be a little harder because of like the chronological order of the movie. Those are like pretty much the parts that I would have liked to see a little better. Like, of course, her acting is not the best. Like, Brie Larson won an Oscar for The Room, so it shows that like in a drama movie maybe she's a little better, but for something that's maybe a little bit more comic, like more sci-fi, more superhero, she wasn't bad. Like, I'm not saying she was bad, but maybe it's not her best environment. She's gonna be in many more movies as Captain Marvel, unless something terrible happens, like, you know, the big backlash and then Disney just screws everything up. Marvel is a property of Disney, so you never know what can happen. Anyways, if everything goes according to plans, Captain Marvel is going to be back for a lot more movies, and I think there's a potential with her character. She's very powerful, but she can be vulnerable. Maybe not when she's in her prime, like in the movie. Like, that's maybe one thing that you notice. She's never really in super grave danger. She never comes close to dying, or like you're never worried for her character. Of course, you know she's gonna be in the movie, a next movie. She's gonna be in Avengers Endgame, so you know it. She won't be hurt in this movie, but they could have done a little bit of a better effort to make her more relatable, more vulnerable, or see a weakness that you never see in this movie, because she's like pretty much like overpowered. She, once again, we come back to Star Wars. She's pretty much a Mary Sue, but that's what Captain Marvel is meant to be. She's the most powerful character in the MCU, so it's something that they could have played with a little bit, but it was risky to maybe go too far on one side because of what's coming for her character in less than 2 months. Another thing that I really liked that I forgot to mention was the addition of the cat, the Flurkin, Goose. Goose was funny. It was a great addition to the movie. It wasn't like a crazy thing, but then again, it's something that you don't expect to see a cat do in a movie. Like, it's pretty much like it's not a regular cat. It's a Flurkin. It's a super dangerous alien that has some like tentacles and like can pretty much like eat other species, and like it basically serves a pretty funny use in this movie, and it becomes being a very important character in some sense that sometimes like the characters are stuck and the Flurkin actually saves them. So you're gonna see, I don't want to spoil too much. Maybe this is like something that I might get into a spoiler zone, but you know, this is just a great comic relief and a great addition to, you know, the whole characters. Samuel L. Jackson was great as Nick Fury. He's true to himself, like a very good actor. Maybe a little controversial outside of the movie, but that's Disney's problem. They can handle it however they want. But yeah, that's, as a whole, I have good words for the general cast. Like Ben Mendelsohn also is good. Jude Law, maybe not the best character, actually lacks a little bit of like, you know, personality or development. But you know, as I said, there's a limit to how much time you can put into a movie just for character development. I would have liked it to be a little bit more on Captain Marvel's, especially how she switched sides, and maybe how she adopts her new point of view. But there's a limit to what you can do in a given time. So that's pretty much it for the movie itself. 7, as I said, is a great grade. If you go and see some other grades, Rotten Tomatoes, 80% for the tomato meter, which is like fine. But we're going into a problem zone here. 57%. Well, it's not a problem, it's more like a concern zone, because there's a lot of people who bash the movie for good or wrong reasons. It's not my role to actually say if it's correct or not, But there's some reasons that hurt this movie in, on the internet and like on YouTube, on reviews, etc. And there's some bad marketing, bad publicity, bad advertising that goes to this movie because of what Brie Larson did, which is basically criticize the proportion of white males reviewing her movies. Movies as a whole, I believe, because she wasn't talking directly about, like, not just about her movies, but some other movies, like A Wrinkle in the Stars, I believe. I do not remember which movie it was that was given a very bad review because the people who actually reviewed the movie were not the target audience. This was more directed as a niche viewer group, which was not what the reviewers actually were. So she gets a point, but maybe it's not the best time to say that when you're gonna get like super overexposed in a very big movie a few weeks or months away. Brie Larson put herself and her movie in pretty hot waters because of what she said. I'm not saying she's right or wrong. I'm saying like maybe it's not the best thing to do at this given time. It's not like if something like I don't know, Oprah Winfrey says that, or like Scarlett Johansson, they have like a status. They people are listening to them more because like they have a status that comes with it. Brie Larson is somewhat kind of new. Like I'd ask my dad or my mom, "Who's Brie Larson?" They'd say, "I don't know." They would know her now because she won one Oscar and she is like pretty much on every cinema billboard right now as Captain Marvel. But let's say 6 months ago, would have asked them and they probably wouldn't have known who she was. Everybody knows who's Oprah Winfrey, Scarlett Johansson, Jennifer Lawrence. Those people are because they've been there. They've been there, done that. Brie Larson is still pretty new to the popular culture, so that maybe was a problem that didn't got well received because maybe people don't understand where she's going. Maybe people give her wrong intentions. There's a lot of stuff that goes around what she did, what she said, that can actually affect how people view her movies. And now people are criticizing her character and say like, I hope they kill her off in Avengers Endgame. I hope she doesn't take too much spotlight. I hope she's not the one who delivers the final blow to Thanos. There's a lot of people who are really angry at her, and it falls back on her character, which is not fair for the other actors. Of course, as I said, Samuel L. Jackson was very political about Donald Trump. But Samuel L. Jackson, once again, being there, done that, it doesn't have like the same reach as someone who is like new to the public and goes pretty much straight at the reviewers. So, and reviewers have somewhat of a big impact on how the audience say the movie and see the actors and their like who they are. People read movie reviews from these people. So if you attack those guys and they don't take the revenge, but maybe it affects how they review their movies, it's gonna fall back on the audience. So that's a little bit of a problem here. So if you see here, like the movie reviews by critics is fine, 80%. Like if you see here, 65 from Metacritic, so it's fine. It's not terrible. It's not amazing, but IMDb is a little bit more severe on the grades and that they give their movies compared to if you see here, if you go and see Avengers, if you go and see the Avengers, the first one here. So 8.1 compared to if you go and see The Avengers here, 92, 91. So it's a little bit more severe. So it will, you know, the whole IMDb will maybe give a bit of a more neutral point of view, less like, you know, extreme backlash, less extreme fan appreciation, etc. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. So to compare Captain Marvel as a movie to the other Marvel movies, compared to, you know, the Avengers, it's not even close. Like 80% tomato meter, 57% liked it, 92%, 91. If you go see Thor Ragnarok, 92, 87. Black Panther, 97, 79. Then again, like, there's a little bit of social debate that goes around this movie. 79% liked it. It felt like a lot more, actually, like, you know, as a general audience, but there's a lot of people who didn't like this movie because it was a black-based movie. And there's still a lot of work to do in our society to fight, you know, sexism, racism, and all sorts of discrimination. Brie Larson doesn't help because what she does is basically point at those things. She points at sexism and racism right as she talks about like that issue. She's saying like there's too many white males compared to what the general audience is, which isn't false, but it's not the right time or the right place to express that problem, express that concern, and that really hurts her movie in many ways. So to recap everything, I would say go and see this movie with an open mind. Captain Marvel is not a fantastic movie, it's not a terrible movie. It is somewhere in the middle. Like if you go and see here on IMDb the user ratings, so basically Mr. and Miss Everybody, the reviews are pretty much spread in that area. So 70% pretty much of voters rated a 7 or better. So you see there's a lot of, you know, 6, 5s, 1s. I think you shouldn't ignore those numbers because it means that people are angry at something, but it's not a one movie. Like the visual effects are great, the acting isn't, definitely not worth a 1. The story sometimes can be better, could be better, but it's not a one movie. It's somewhere in that area. So arithmetic mean and median, I would say it's pretty accurate. And as you can see, there's a lot of, you know, males that voted for that movie. Females, of course, will like it better. It's somewhat of a feminist movie. You gotta admit it. I'm not uncomfortable with feminist movies. I like Wonder Woman. It was a fantastic movie, one of the best female-centric superhero movies I've ever seen. But you know, of course, females will like it better. But there's still something going on here that explains some frustration in you know the MCU fan base. So just try to go with an open mind and forget everything that's said about the actors, Samuel L. Jackson, Brie Larson, even the writers and stuff. Like, I don't even know if there's anything. I tried to stop reading about it because it actually made me frustrated. So just see the movie as it is. Don't try to go in, like, you know, dig too deep, because it will ruin your appreciation of it. Try to see the movie as it is and not like as a what its people are. So I would say it's worth watching. It's not gonna be like your favorite movie. It's probably not gonna be your favorite Marvel movie. It's probably not gonna be as bad as you think. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter and on Twitch. And if you guys want to see more movie reviews or movie opinions or anything, just let me know in the comment section, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace!